The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Susan Sweeney, one of the deans at eLearningU, and I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Pack Hashtags and Unpack Results. For anybody that's new on our call today, we go for about 50 minutes of great content, and then we have about 10 minutes of Q&A. We do our Q&A one of two ways. You can type your question in the question area as we go along, and I'll read those questions out to our expert, Anna Heckadon, today. And alternatively, if you want to speak directly to Anna to get your question answered, just hold your question till we're in the Q&A time period, and then click on that little hand symbol. It's in your control panel, little hand symbol. It lights up on my screen and lets me know that you want me to unmute you so that you can speak directly to Anna to get your question answered. I'll give you a little heads up before I unmute you. I'll call you by your first name. I will unmute you. Then you can have a chat with Anna, get your question answered. Everybody can hear the question. Everybody can hear the answer. And once your question's been answered to your satisfaction, I will then mute you again and we'll go on to the next question. Anna has been kind enough to provide a PDF of her presentation today. It's in the handouts area. So you can just drag and drop that or save file as, and you'll have your copy or PDF of today's presentation. And so our speaker today, Anna Heckadon, she's a social media manager who focuses on strategy and growth. Anna has managed social media for multiple businesses, increasing their organic reach and engagement by creating specific strategies tailored to their brand type. Most of Anna's social media experience comes from her work with tourism and travel companies, and she absolutely loves to travel. And Anna has a special offer that she'll give at the end of today's program just for eLearningU attendees. So make sure that you listen up for that offer that she'll have at the end of the program. Anna, so happy to have you with us and really looking forward to your program.
All right. Yeah. Hey, so I'm Anna, and I'm here today to talk to you about hashtags and how you can pack them in your Instagram post captions to actually go ahead and unpack results for your accounts and ultimately your brand and your business. So Susan basically introduced me, but yeah, so I'm a social media manager and I focus on strategy and organic growth. Most of my social media experience, as Susan said, really just comes from the tourism and the travel sector. And actually the very first social media work I did was with a local tourism company for a smaller nearby municipality. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background in my social media experience. So as a millennial, I have used social media for what feels like most of my life. 2006 is when Facebook launched to the wider community, which meant that everyone over 13 with a valid email address. And I got in either 2009 or 2010. This is how social media really started for me. So then Instagram was introduced in 2010, but in 2012, Facebook bought Instagram, so that is really when it started becoming popular. I remember not wanting to get on it because, why should I bother? It was just another thing like Facebook, and after all, I was already on there. I didn't think that I needed to be on another platform, and on top of that, like, it wasn't necessary, or that's what I thought at the time. But then I went away on a summer vacation in 2013 to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and somehow my friend managed to convince me to give it a shot, to give Instagram a shot. She was always obsessed with the latest technologies, but I figured, okay, what's the harm in trying? So I created an Instagram account and started sharing pictures from my vacation. I was having a lot of fun seeing the likes come in from my friends, building up my followers, and sharing photos from my pretty awesome trip. So then, flash forward to a year and a half ago, the start of summer 2018. I'd been using Instagram and Facebook fairly consistently since I got them, and here I was starting a new job as a visitor service coordinator for a local tourism committee, Oak Bay Tourism. I was to be stationed at the information kiosk and talk to tourists, welcoming them, giving them directions, showing them the best places in the area, attend events, and more. Pretty awesome summer job, I'd say. Pretty soon on the job, my supervisor, who was a friend of mine beforehand, had noticed that my social media skills were actually quite good. She, a very busy woman herself, tasked me with managing the tourism committee's social media accounts. I was pretty excited for this, and it felt like my cool summer job just got even cooler. So I managed their social media all summer long and continued on for another 7 months, till May of this year. Throughout this, I learned a whole lot about what to post, how to post, and how to really create an online social media community within a small municipality. I'll be honest, even with just this one job under my belt, I didn't think I would or even could make a job out of it. But somehow the next place I sent in my resume to work at in January of this year, a local travel clothing store, Adventure Clothing, they ended up tasking me with managing their social media as well. So my supervisor had noticed it on my resume and knew that his store needed to get their social media game like up and running again. So there I was in January of this year doing more social media. I was pretty excited that another person had noticed my skill and decided to hire me to run their accounts. I worked with them until 2 weeks ago, actually. But through this experience, I kept expanding my portfolio and with another travel related company as well. On their social media, I promoted the store in general, the clothing, the luggage, the bags, and other miscellaneous travel products we sold, and just, travel in and of itself. Through this job, I learned a lot about how to actually craft strategies, both related to travel and a clothing store. There's two different markets right there and no shortage of things to discuss. Then, what really inspired me to fully pursue social media management was when, in April, I got hired to manage social media remotely for a historical tourism company. I was excited to continue on in this industry and then add some history along with it, which was related to my anthropology degree that I had just finished classes for that month and then graduated officially from in June. So on this spot is a walking tour company that is app-based, meaning they aren't actually physical and traditional walking tours, but they're rather app guided. And you read about the city on your phone screen as you follow the map, which directs you where to go for each part of the tour. Their free app currently has many tours for cities and towns all across Canada. And they also create beautiful cross-fade images that contain both images from the past and the present on the same location. So with their accounts, I really got the chance to promote lots of cool places and their history while sharing some beautifully crafted photographs. Through them, I really got the chance to explore hashtags as well, since I was posting content for so many different cities. So where I am now. Since all of these experiences and discovering that this was something I could definitely do as a job, I decided to start my own business. The idea first came to me in late April of this year, but it really started to take shape in July. Since then, my business has been growing and growing, and I have a whole slew of new clients that inspired me to take my business full time just in these past couple of weeks, actually. It's been pretty exciting. I'll be honest, though, that I'm actually very sad to say that I haven't been working with anyone travel related since I started my own business. I would definitely like that to change because the travel industry is where my roots are and where I got all of my expertise and what I am most passionate about. It can be easily guessed about me that I love to travel, because it's true. My background in life, not just work, is very travel centric. So here goes. I currently live in Canada, but I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. I am a half Icelandic, half Canadian American. Hard to keep track of. Trust me, I know. I have traveled all over the States, a bit across Canada, and all over Iceland. I've been to Norway, Ghana, South Korea, and most recently France and the UK. So you can really see how travel and I pretty much go hand in hand. And really, that's how I even ended up doing my degree in anthropology, because travel and other cultures and, just people in general have always interested me. But let's get into the presentation. So in this presentation, I'll be speaking in lots of detail about Instagram hashtags and how you can maximize your reach with the use of them, and when and how to create and promote a community hashtag. So this presentation is for you if you are using Instagram. Hashtags are very Instagram centric, so in this talk, I won't be discussing hashtags on other platforms like Twitter or others. It'll just be about Instagram. So this presentation is also for you if you are not using hashtags, because that needs to change and you'll see why soon enough. Or if you're half-heartedly using a handful of hashtags that describe your image or the location of the image you're posting, like say hashtag adventure or hashtag travel, hashtag tourism, hotel, mountain, ocean, sunset, etc. Hashtags have to be posted with intention, and that's something I'll be addressing shortly. This presentation is also for you if you haven't created a community hashtag or don't even know what that is. Or maybe you have created one, but people just aren't using it. This I'll be talking about in the latter half of the presentation. So after this talk, you will know about why hashtags are even necessary, how to intentionally research, organize, and utilize the right hashtags in your posts, about hashtag engagement around your posting time. You will be able to analyze their success or failure after the post has gone out. You will also know about why you should use community hashtags and who should be using them, how to really create and promote that community hashtag, and how to stay within the legalities of sharing user-generated content. So let's dive in. But first, let's start with some terms that you should know going into this presentation. You probably know a lot of these terms, but we're going to go over them all just to begin with to make sure everyone is on the same page and has a solid understanding of them. Firstly, of course, we have hashtags. A hashtag is a word or phrase preceded by the hash or pound symbol. It is used on social media platforms to identify posts on a specific topic. Then we have reach, which is how many people saw your post, versus impressions, which is the total number of times a post was seen. A single person could have seen your post multiple times, so all those count towards your impression count. I'm just going to go over those two once again because they are a little bit complicated. So reach is how many people or accounts saw your post, whereas impressions is the total of number of times your post was seen. So one person could have seen your post multiple times. All right. And then we have engagement, which is referring to how many likes, comments, shares, and saves you receive on your posts. Basically, how much people interact with them. The different forms of engagement have different levels of importance. So saves is the most important. It's the little bookmark symbol on the bottom right of a post. Then shares are next important. They're the paper airplane icon. Then we have comments, and then likes come last, of course, especially since they have been recently working on hiding the like counter. So we really now know that these are the least important piece to the engagement puzzle. So basically, the more saves, shares, comments, and likes that your content has, the more engaging it is. Okay, so now we're going to go over hashtag size. So once you click on a hashtag, you see this right at the top of the hashtag page. And then there's top posts under a hashtag, which you see on the hashtags page first. These are the most engaged with pieces of content under that hashtag. I will talk about how you show up at the top shortly. So then we have recent posts, where you can see the most recent content posted with that hashtag. Everyone's content shows up here when you use that hashtag. So here's an image that illustrates those three last terms. So hashtag size is right at the top. It's how many posts are underneath that hashtag or use that hashtag. And then we have the top content, which shows up automatically. So all the pictures that are on the screen are the top content. And then you can click recent to see the most recent content. All right, and some more terms. We have algorithm, which is a very much talked about topic by many, many people. People are really always blaming the algorithm for their post to not being able to make it big and make it to the top. But the general definition of an algorithm is a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations. So, as referring to Instagram, the algorithm is what calculates the quality of your posts and shares it with more and more people, depending on the quality of it and if people are enjoying it so far. Basically, here's where it gets a little complicated. The algorithm calculates your engagement rate, and the engagement rate has determined the quality of your post. So the algorithm calculates that and then shares it with more people to gain wider traction, so more related people can see it. By that I mean the algorithm also calculates the type of people who are seeing your post, and then if it's being engaged with a lot, it'll share it with more of those types of people. And so it's a little complicated, but all you have to remember is to post good, high quality content that your audience wants to see, and to keep engaging with your audience so they engage back with you. All right, and then we have target audience. which is basically who you want to be seeing and interacting with your content. As a person in tourism, who are you trying to direct your marketing to? What types of tourists are you trying to bring into your community? From where are they? You want these types of people to be following you and thus seeing your content. They are your target audience. You can also have local people following you and interacting with your content because that can definitely help give you an engagement boost from the people who have been to where you are promoting and would hopefully, happily be commenting on your post that they've been there and other people should go too. So next we have your niche. Your niche pertains to your business appealing to a small, specialized section of the population. Then there's Instagram bots, which do certain things to grow your following for you, but in a way that is against Instagram's community guidelines and standards. They often mass follow and unfollow accounts for you to build up your following, copy and paste comments, mass watch your target audience's Instagram stories, etc. And then so in its most basic explanation, a community hashtag is a hashtag you create for your community, whether for their digestion and viewing or their use of, but we will be talking more about that later. And lastly, we have Later, which is the #1 visual marketing platform for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, on which you can schedule visual posts to go out on these different platforms. They also have a blog in which I've gotten a number of the statistics that I discussed in my presentation. All right, now let's get into it. So hashtags are incredibly important for Instagram. They can help expand the reach of your account, showing your posts to as many people as possible and ultimately grow your following by leaps and bounds. So as stated by Later, a post with at least one Instagram hashtag averages 12.6% more engagement than posts without a hashtag. So when using hashtags, you have the opportunity to show up as a top post under that hashtag. The more engaged with that your post is, the more likely it is to show up as a top post under that hashtag. So the algorithm watches your post get engaged with as soon as you share it. When it sees that lots of a certain type of account is engaging with it, it will share the piece of content with more of those types of people. The more and more engagement, the higher the chance you have of your post being put in one of those top spots. When you get to that top spot, even more and more people will actually see your post and ultimately engage with it. This can lead to a massive influx of new followers, and posts can remain in the top spot for weeks, months, or even years if it's a smaller hashtag. Staying in the top spots will continually help engagement, and your posts may continue to get comments weeks, months, or years down the line. So here's an example of how I got a post from on this spot in a top spot on several different hashtags. So for them, I basically made a post about how their Quebec tours would be coming soon, and I used a handful of smaller Quebec-related hashtags, like around 10 to 100,000 in size. We received an amazingly high amount of engagement on this post because of my hashtag usage, and our post ended up showing up at the top 9 on a handful of these 20-something hashtags I used, and farther down in the top posts on another handful. But besides showing up at the top, we did receive over 5,000 impressions from people through hashtags on their own, and the total reach of 71% of these people who weren't following us, which is great and does wonders for discovery. It is absolutely worth it to craft a hashtag strategy for your brand if you want to get visible, gain more reach, and grow your account. So, what hashtags do you use? Hashtags that are relevant and targeted are, according to Later, still one of the best ways to get discovered by new audiences. The popular hashtags on social media have been used millions and millions of times, like hashtag San Francisco, which has been used 26.8 million times. So sharing a post with a large hashtag tagged in a caption like this means that you won't actually receive a lot of likes and comments. It seems counterintuitive, but since there's so many people using these hashtags and that have used them, your post won't gain any traction through them because they're just so overused. Nobody will even see your post when new content by many people across the world are being posted with this hashtag every few minutes. The page will refresh and your content will be gone to the bottom before you know it. Thus, it is absolutely key to find niche hashtags with an engaged audience that are relevant to your specific niche. Hashtags that are under 200,000 in size are considered niche. Your best bet is to collect a range of hashtags from 0 to 200,000, but I will go over the specifics shortly. But don't just pick random smaller hashtags. You have to research them and thoroughly look through them to see if they resonate and relate to the type of content that you are sharing. So how do you find the right hashtags for your niche? As with most things on social media, it's actually a game of trial and error. You have to research them. So how do you start? Ask yourself this one question. What's a hashtag that you automatically connect to your niche? Is it hashtag travel? Is it the city you're in and representing? Hashtag San Francisco, for example? Pick that one hashtag, and the next step is to search it in the search bar to see what other hashtags come up as suggested or related hashtags. These might be hashtags you want to use in your posts. This next image will illustrate this. So first you have the suggested that show up in the drop down when you search a specific hashtag. And then when you click on that hashtag, you have the suggested in the horizontal scroll bar. And you can click on each one of these as well, and you can just kind of keep on getting more and more related hashtags for each one that you click on. So go through and ask yourself the following questions. Are these hashtags niche and under 200K that you're researching? Scroll through the top posts. Is this type of content like yours? How about in the recent posts? Are people still using this hashtag, or has it not been used for a while? Is only one person or account using the hashtag, or are there a variety of similar accounts using it? If the hashtag is the right size, has similar content to what you'd share, is being used regularly or has been used recently, and multiple different people are using the hashtag, then write down the hashtag because you will be using this hashtag. So I find it easiest to do the research on your phone and then take a screenshot when you find a hashtag that satisfies these questions. It goes quicker than writing it down right away, and you can write them down later. You might screenshot duplicates, but they can also be weeded out later. You want to find, at most 90 different hashtags for month 1, but you can have as little as 75 if you do 25 hashtags per post. And it's recommended to do between 25 to 30 hashtags per post. So keep clicking through the suggested until you find hashtags that work for you. Satisfy the questions and then screenshot them. You can also start over at the search bar and search another hashtag related to your niche, one that may have not shown up in the suggestions, say hashtag adventure. Remember to be intentional in your searching. After all, you are creating a strategy that will maximize the reach of your account, so you want to do the best that you possibly can with your research. So some other ways to find hashtags and other questions to ask yourself. So research your target audience. What hashtags are they using? The hashtags that you use should be relevant to what keywords that your target audience is searching on Instagram. Research your competitors. What hashtags are they using? This can help you figure out where your target audience is and which hashtags they are using. Research industry leaders and Instagram influencers with the same or similar target audience to you. What hashtags are they using? So when you have your 75 to 90 hashtags as screenshots, open up a spreadsheet document and put them in there along with their size. It should look something like this. So you've got your hashtags on one part and then their size. So you can automatically select to organize them by size as well, which is something I like to do. If you hover your mouse over B, you will see a down arrow, and then you can click sort sheet A to Z and everything will reformat so it's arranged smallest to largest. This can be done in either Excel or Google spreadsheets. So the next step after entering them is, minus the duplicates, is to organize them of groups of 20 to 30. So as I said before, 30 is the max number of hashtags allowed per post on Instagram. I recommend using as many hashtags as possible, but this is actually a controversial topic. Feel free to play around with the amount of hashtags you use per post, and if that makes a difference for your account, stick with what works. Keep in mind, things can work differently whenever the algorithm changes. This is why it's very much about trial and error in this field, and specifically with regards to hashtags. So you should organize your groups with 5 to 10 hashtags of each of these sizes. So you've got your 5 to 10, 0 to 50K hashtags, your 5 to 10 of 51 to 100K, and your 5 to 10 of 101 to 200K. But remember to only use one hashtag under 10K. This is because you won't gain much traction on the under 10K hashtags because they are just so small. So once you have organized your hashtags, you are actually ready to roll out your posts for the next month. So let's have a look. So we've got a sample calendar for next month for November. This sample is if you are posting 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Tailor your calendar accordingly for how many days a week that you are posting. Basically, you want each of your groups to have content roll out at least one of each day in the days that you will be posting. You can see here that I alternate between groups 1, 2, and 3, and that each of them take place on each day you are posting at least once. It sounds kind of complicated, but really you just have to remember to alternate. So first post of the month will have group 1, second post will have group 2, third post group 3, and then kind of start over. So you can see that each hashtag grouping will go once each day of the week. All right, so we alternate so that you can better study the analytics of the posts and find out which hashtag groupings did well on which days. To note, for November, you can start to study analytics on November 22nd because that's when the hashtag groups start to repeat by day. But we'll talk about analytics in a bit. All right. So you can't just forget about these hashtags after you get your content posted. You actually have to engage in them too. The most ideal thing to do to get your content seen by an even larger amount of people than just the amount from posting in the hashtags or from posting the hashtags in your posts is to, so before you post, spend 15 minutes engaging with your community through their content. Do this by scrolling through your feed, your homepage, and commenting on relevant things to your niche and what your target audience is sharing. This is because people will comment back on your content fairly quickly the more engaged your audience is. Basically, for making comments, you get comments in return. So then those 15 minutes are up and your post goes out. Then, so after your content has been shared, for the 15 minutes after you've posted, engage in the hashtags. So click on the hashtags in your posts and comment on the top 9 and 9 most recent photos. However, if the top 9 were posted more than a month ago, comment on more recent posts instead. You do not want to comment on old posts because that honestly just doesn't look good. 15 minutes really isn't that long, so you won't be able to get through all of your 30 hashtags. But think of commenting in hashtags like promoting your page, but more indirectly so because you won't comment, hey, check out my page, because that's a really unprofessional comment that is leaning towards being spam in Instagram's eyes. People do this on Instagram, so you will see it, but don't take part in it because it's actually against Instagram's community standards. The copy and paste promo content comments are bad. They look too much like a bot, so the algorithm will see it and is highly likely to block your account. So when you're commenting on other posts after having posted a new one yourself, you're still, despite not being unprofessional about it, you're still directing traffic towards your account, and people will see and comment on your new post. So then the more engaged that your post becomes, the higher chance it has of reaching that top spot in the hashtags like we discussed earlier. You really want to maximize your reach by commenting on the posts both in your feed and under the relevant hashtags. Okay, So now onto analytics. You can access Instagram Analytics as either a business account or a creator account. Business accounts are good for retailers, local businesses, brands, organizations, and service providers, whereas creator accounts are good for public figures, influencers, content producers, and artists, and that's not really relevant for you. The only ways in which these are different is that the creator accounts tend to get a bit more analytics based on how many people are following versus unfollowing you. But back to the topic at hand. So to see how your hashtag choices have done, click on the specific post that you wish to learn more about, and then click that View Insights button, which will show up on the bottom left of that image you posted. So scroll down under Impressions to where it says From Hashtags, and it will tell you the exact amount of impressions your post made through the hashtags you chose in your post. As per Hashtag Insights, this is really the only spot you can see how well you're doing with your hashtags, so it's nice to keep it simple when there's really only one piece of analytics to study for hashtags. So the following month. So each month you should be using new hashtags. However, if you found through your analytics that a certain hashtag grouping did extremely well on a certain day with a certain type of content, keep using that hashtag grouping the following month on that same day with that same type of content. It doesn't have to be every time that day rolls around, but it's good to help see if it sticks or if it, was a one-time thing. If it keeps working in your favor, then you have found a key hashtag grouping for your niche. But generally speaking, you should be switching up your hashtag groupings each month. Complete new hashtag research the same thorough way as I previously discussed. If you come up with similar hashtags to the previous month, that's okay. Just try rearranging your hashtag groupings so different hashtags are paired together. So now we're going to switch gears and talk about community hashtags. So this is something I have experience with creating, promoting, and reaping the benefits of. So let me first discuss what I did with Oak Bay Tourism. I started hashtag OBT photos where people could share their photos of Oak Bay. I would go through the photos people shared whenever I was scheduling content to select the best ones to be shared on our social media accounts. It took a bit for people to, actually start using the hashtag, in all honesty, but I did post a weekly reminder with a photo taken in Oak Bay to keep generating interest in sharing to the hashtag. Because, you do have to share something at least 7 times for people to actually do something about it. Anyway, Oak Bay is a smaller community, so it was easier for people to find out about this hashtag to begin with, what with both the continuous posting and the word of mouth that comes with being in a small community. It didn't take me long to be able to use content continuously from this hashtag because people just kept posting. It was pretty awesome. So this particular style of community hashtag is about user-generated content, but you can create other types of hashtags that say inspire your community, showcase the behind-the-scenes aspect, are customized and event-specific, or that promote new products. There are so many different ways to go with your community hashtag, but I'm focusing on the first, user-generated content community hashtags. That was a mouthful. So, why you should be using community hashtags and what benefits they have for your account. According to a study by Simply Measured, 70% of the most used hashtags on Instagram are branded hashtags created by businesses, as I found on later. Branded hashtags are basically another way of saying community hashtags. So why should you use community hashtags? So number 1, user-generated content is actually 76% more trustworthy than branded advertising, according to Later. Thus, people are actually getting to know your brand better when other people are sharing about it on social media. Whenever there is any form of social proof, your followers are much more trusting of you and your brand because they get to see it from another's perspective, because you obviously have to speak well of your own brand, but when other people are also speaking well of your brand, this is a major bonus to the user-generated content plan. All right, so number 2, it gives followers a place to share relevant content that you can share to your feed. Nobody has to be emailing content to you anymore, and you can get photos through these branded hashtags. Number 3, You won't run out of content to post, like literally ever, because your audience will be sharing content for you under that hashtag to use on your page. Number 4, your community actually becomes more engaged with your content because they are ready, excited, and waiting to see their content shared by you. Kind of like a contest. People are waiting to see if you will share their content, so they keep watching and thus engage with your content and get so excited to see that you've shared theirs. Once you have shared theirs, they may even post more content to that hashtag because they know that you're trustworthy and that you are actually sharing their content. People are happy to get their content shared with a wider audience, but be sure to tag them in the caption and the photo. Always a good idea to give credit, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. So, who should use this type of community hashtag? Social media accounts that have an engaged or semi-engaged community with something to talk about should use this type of hashtag. I say engaged because then people will actually be sharing content to your hashtag, which is what you want, and semi-engaged because then it won't be hard to get people to start sharing. If you are a community where people can easily share photos of a certain area into a hashtag that you will then go ahead and share, I would highly recommend utilizing community hashtags. However, if you really have to think about if your audience is engaged, you really have to think about if your audience is engaged. I'll give you an example. So for the travel clothing store I worked for, I did test out a community hashtag on both their Instagram and Twitter, but it didn't gain any traction at all. So I acknowledge that I didn't promote it too often, but it definitely wasn't working as fast as the community hashtag had worked for Oak Bay tourism. We had all the makings of community here with the travel clothing store because we had something to talk about, and people could have easily shared photos of them out adventuring and wearing the travel clothing they had bought in store, which is what I had hoped for when I started the hashtag. But we didn't have the makings of an engaged community because most of adventure clothing's customers are older and thus were less likely to be on social media and sharing photos. So you really have to keep in mind all those things. Is there something that your community can be talking about and sharing under a hashtag for you to create content out of? And even if there is something, will your community actually do it? Are they engaged enough, or can they start to become engaged through some promotion? These are questions that you have to think about before you decide to create that hashtag. So, how do you create a good hashtag? The narrower the scope of the hashtag, the more engaged the users tend to be. By this quote, I mean that you want your hashtag to have one specific purpose, not several. Don't ask people to share different types of content to it, and don't share different types of content to it yourself. Make it specific, simple, and easy to comprehend. Your first step, though, is to pick a name for your hashtag. Here's some tips for doing that. So number 1, make it related to your business name, and then maybe a keyword that describes what the purpose of it is. Like, make the name unique enough so that it deters any off-topic discussion. For example, hashtag OBT photos that I created for Oak Bay Tourism, relating to the business name OBT, Oak Bay Tourism, and then photos because I wanted people to be sharing their Oak Bay photos. It definitely deterred some off-topic discussion, but I actually could have been more specific with this name and said something like outdoor photos to avoid all the indoor, literally in people's houses, pictures that I did receive. So number 2, make sure that your hashtag hasn't been used before. You can just search it in the Instagram search field to see. Do not use one that has been used or started. Avoid that kind of competition because there's really no reason to do it. Plus, when the content is all posted by you and your followers, it just looks way better visually. So number 3, avoid commonly misspelled words or double letters because these can make it easy for people to make mistakes. And of course, you don't want that to happen because then you get less content from the hashtag and people may be engaging or, trying to, but they're just not getting it right. It can be frustrating for everyone involved. I remember trying to figure out how to spell entrepreneur when I started using hashtags like that as I was beginning my business. And that was really hard to spell correctly and consistently correct. So number 4, if you can, Make your phrase catchy and memorable so your followers don't easily forget it. Make it fun too, because then that is helpful for memory. If you aren't able to do this, don't worry too much about it. Hashtag OBT photos isn't really that fun or catchy in any way because it's pretty practical, but it still worked well for my purposes. So, and then as I touched on in the beginning of the section with the quote, make it simple. You don't want it to be too long or difficult to understand or anything like that. It can be your company name, a tagline, name of a product, or like campaign that has nothing to do with your brand name, but everything to do with your brand identity. And then kind of as an overall statement, make sure it's short, easy to spell, but relevant and creative. You want people to be enthusiastic about sharing it. It can even be humorous too. So I'll give you an example for a San Francisco hashtag you can make for if you wanted people to share their San Francisco photos. And I'll be honest, this one was hard to make because there are so many San Francisco hashtags already and like not much room to work with. But it could be something like hashtag SF_share or hashtag share_SF. But then again, the underscore might be too much for people to remember. So it could be something like hashtag share SF Bay, which is easier, but a bit longer. It also kind of changed the context and brings it more about the whole Bay Area rather than just San Francisco. There are really so many directions that you can go and that make it easier to come up with if you relate it to the name of your company, community, hotel, etc. So it's not just about the city, but then you can get more specific when you're relating it to your brand. So, and here's a couple of things that you can do with your hashtag upon creating it. So, invite your followers to follow the hashtag because this gives the possibility that your content could appear 2 times in your followers' feed. This is double the impressions, so it doubles the chance that one person will engage with your content. And then the more people that follow the hashtag, the more possibilities for engagement. It's super important as well to put your community hashtag in your bio. There it will be clickable and people, can also follow it from there. When new people see your account, upon reading your bio, they will notice right away that 1, you have a hashtag, and 2, they can share content to it, and 3, it has the chance to be shared by you, getting people excited in anticipation as I discussed earlier. So here's how you should put it in your bio. Tag, and then like hashtag name for a chance to be featured. You want to say it's just a chance to be featured because it seems way more exclusive and people like that. Not everyone will get featured. Bad or low quality photos just won't get shared because they just don't look good. For your first post promoting the hashtag, you should post a photo of the type of content you are looking for with a similar caption to this one that I used for Oak Bay tourism. Tag your Oak Bay photos with hashtag OBT photos for a chance to be featured across our social media accounts. You can say just Instagram instead of social media accounts if that's where you're going to be sharing your content to only. But with Oak Bay, we had the hashtag on Twitter too. So I spoke more broadly about where we would be sharing the content. You can also use this format when you are reminding your audience to use the hashtag. You can use this in the caption or, a part of your caption every day for a week, and then once a week when the photos, start coming in, and then less frequently, like 2 times per month or so. You can also do a small reminder each time you share a post that someone had posted in the hashtag. So for Oak Bay, I used this format, changing up the caption slightly each time so it didn't, look too much like spam to the Instagram algorithm. Lovely photo by and then the account handle of the original person who posted the content, and then the standard, tag your Oak Bay photos with hashtag OBT photos for a chance to be featured across our social media accounts. But let's get into the legalities of posting user-generated content. So there's some things you have to remember when you're sharing content posted by others. It is important to both treat your community of those that are creating content fairly, but also to protect your own brand in the process. To do this, you have to jump through a couple of hoops on your way to sharing the content. So actually, recently, different businesses have been in trouble for incorrectly sharing user-generated content on Instagram, so you definitely don't want to be one of them. But the legality around sharing content like this on Instagram is kind of unclear, but there are laws around copyright infringement and protecting intellectual property to make us be at least a bit cautious. And better safe than sorry. So generally speaking, reposting the user-generated content is really just about asking for permission and then going ahead and giving credit where you should. You don't want to be caught stealing content so that you can market it, because that really doesn't look good. Yes, even if by tagging a hashtag they are, in a sense, giving you permission, even then. Really, the big concern with sharing content without asking has to do with copyright and property rights. So it can be really bad when brands and businesses start to make money off of content that they didn't have permission to use. In all honesty, though, most people are happy to have their content shared and excited to hear when a brand or business would like to share it, but it's also just important to be careful. So how should you go about asking for permission even when it's posted under the hashtag you started? So send the original person who posted it a direct message on Instagram. It's definitely better to send them a message rather than just leaving a comment on their post, because it's way more personal. 65% of people will actually grant permission to use their photos within 24 hours. So you don't really have anything to worry about, and you won't be losing time, really at all. So when you message them, you should direct message them their own post. All you have to do is go to the post and then just hit the the little paper airplane button, and then type their name, their Instagram handle, and hit send. Then you can say something like this. Hey name, this is a great photo and we would love to share it. Is that okay with you? We will absolutely credit you both in the photo and in the caption. And then don't forget to credit them. Tag them in both the photo and the caption. And that's actually a wrap for my presentation. We've reached the end, so I wanted to give you a little recap so you don't forget about what we talked about. All right, so we talked about the necessity of hashtags, how to research, organize, and utilize the right hashtags in your posts, how to do hashtag engagement around posting time, and how to analyze their success or failure after the fact, why you should create a community hashtag and for who they are for, how to even create and promote a community hashtag, and how to stay legal with sharing content from your hashtag. We covered a lot and we'll shortly have time for questions, but if there's anything you wish to discuss in more detail than a simple question can do for you, feel free to reach out to me via email. And I've got my contact slide up. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course through email. And yeah, that's what I've got for you.
Awesome, Anna. That was a fabulous presentation. Everything you need to know about hashtags. Thank you. For anybody that joined us late on the call, we're going to go to our Q&A, and we do it one of two ways. You can type the question in the question area, and I'll read those questions out. Alternatively, if you'd like to speak directly to Anna to get your question answered, just click on the little hand symbol on your screen. It lights up on my panel and lets me know that you want me to unmute you. I'll give you a heads up, call you by your first name. I will unmute you. You'll be able to chat away, get your question answered, and everybody will be able to hear the question. Everybody can hear the answer. Once your question's been answered to your satisfaction, I will then mute you again and we'll go on to the next question. Before we get into that, next week we've got SEO 201 with emphasis on organic link building via video assets. So make sure you register for that program. And Anna, I know you've got a great offer for attendees. Why don't we do that before we get into the Q&A?
Okay, perfect. So, maybe you want to do all this hashtag research that I had mentioned, or you want to create a community hashtag, but you don't have the time for either of those things, or even to consistently manage your Instagram account in general. Well, I actually have a very limited amount of spaces open for Instagram management. So if you're ready to let an expert take over, someone who knows the ropes of Instagram, knows what works well, and all the little tips and tricks of the platform, I am here for you. I'm currently offering my Instagram management service at $100 Canadian off for month 1 on a 3-month contract if you reach out to me within 1 week. So if that's something you think you need, don't hesitate to get in contact with me on either of my social media channels or through email. All right, yeah, that's it, Susan.
Great. And your services are in Canadian dollars?
Yes,
You're
that's
going to have
correct.
to pay the Americans money back with the exchange rate. So I know that I spend, I think, $1.35 to get $1 American. So you do the math, that's a great deal. Okay, so let's get into our questions. First one is, do you see an opportunity to get more business through hashtags?
Absolutely. So even with so by sharing into hashtags, you're really broadening your visibility. So more people will see your content and thus give you more business. And then by engaging within those hashtags around post time, that kind of ups that visibility and reach even further. So I would say most definitely.
Okay, next question. Your presentation was all about hashtags in your feed posts. What about in the Instagram stories?
So in Instagram stories, you can actually add up to 11 hashtags, but I only recommend to use a few. There is the hashtag sticker where you can add one hashtag, but you can also just type them with the text feature. But so this like people have found that you get more reach when you use all 30 hashtags in your standard feed posts, but then more reach for your story posts when you use less. Feel free to test out the amount, of course, and find the right one that works for you. But it's very important to keep in mind here that in stories, it is actually better to use the larger hashtags, like 500,000 or 200,000 plus in terms of sizing should be used. So this is because fewer people are using hashtags in their stories, so you're likely to gain like a lot of traction and visibility from that. So for example, I would definitely recommend using hashtag San Francisco, hashtag travel, hashtag adventure, and then you can actually analyze these posts. But like all you have to do with your business account is to open up the story and kind of scroll down to see how many views you received from a specific hashtag. But really the most important thing to keep in mind here is to use larger hashtags.
Okay, the next question. Have you seen good examples of hashtag contests?
I'm not exactly sure what is meant by hashtag contests.
I don't know, but I presume, can you have a contest encouraging people to use your hashtag and then give a prize or something?
Absolutely. Yeah, that would definitely help get people to start using your hashtag for sure. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Next question. I think you answered this later in the presentation, but I'll throw it out there anyway. With OBT photos, does this give you permission to use the photos in your marketing?
Yeah, so I did answer that, but I'll go over that real quick. It's still very important to ask for permission and preferably through the direct messages as it is more personal. Sometimes people will say, yeah, you can use this photo and feel free to use all my photos in future as well, because so you don't have to keep asking me. So like, and that makes it easier then too down the line. But yeah, be sure to ask.
Okay, great. Next question. How long does it take you to do all the hashtag research?
So the screenshotting and research specifically should take you about an hour. And then inputting it in the spreadsheet and creating those groups of 25 to 30 should take about another hour.
Okay, next question. Should hashtags be placed in the caption or in the comments?
So in all honesty, this one doesn't really matter. I know that hashtags do look better in the comments, but I actually prefer to put them in the caption for several reasons. It's actually easier to when you schedule your content in advance because you won't have to manually add the hashtags as the first comment when you post. So everything can be automatic. And then there's the possibility that you will get flagged for having a spam comment. That is unlikely, but Instagram's policies against bots have become stricter lately, so there is always the chance. Um, and you lose valuable seconds or minutes of reaching the top post the longer it takes you to add the hashtags after your post goes out. This is because content gets old fast. So if you add hashtags later, it will miss out on being in the most recent spot in the recent section of the hashtag. So it is best to actually, keep your hashtags in the captions so you don't lose any time. In terms of looks, though, you can easily add a couple new lines with dots or blank lines, depending on your schedule. Later allows you to add blank lines, but other schedulers like Hootsuite do not and do require the 5 dots on each new line for there to actually be spacing. But yeah, so I would suggest captions, but feel free to do it in the comments as well.
Okay, great. Now I'm down to the last 2 questions. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to get asked during the program, please get it in now. The next question is, should we have different hashtags for our different target markets?
I would say it depends how different they are and with what you're trying to do with the hashtags. If on one hashtag you want people to be sharing content for you to use, and maybe if on a different hashtag you want a different group of people to kind of maybe see your behind the scenes photos, then I would suggest keeping it separate, just so things don't get mixed up. Or yeah, if your target markets are separate, it's best to keep those separate, so people don't get too confused.
Okay. And the last question, unless we get one in real quick, is a shorter hashtag better?
I would say yes. Shorter, in terms of like the ones you're creating and that you're starting, a shorter hashtag is definitely better because it's easier for people to remember. But if you're using, but for hashtags in your posts, and say you find a really niche hashtag that's some sort of long phrase about travel or something related to that, I would suggest using it. Just give it a go and try it out.
Okay, great. That's the end of our questions, the end of our program. Thanks, Anna, ever so much. Great session on hashtags. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you.
And
Thank you.
thanks everybody for attending, and we'll see you next week, SEO 201, with emphasis on organic link building via video assets. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Anna.
Bye.